G'day, welcome back to my string challenge fly corp as we continue to connect every country in the world by a long continuous string. Okay, so we will give it a few minutes, I reckon, just to see if anything, we get any more sort of cities around the Baltics. I think there's definitely more room up there. But we will dive back into picking up probably the two of these guys next. One comment I did have, someone, I'm not sure if more than one person did or if it was just one person, suggested that what I should now do is concede and just start spamming 5 planes on every route and just sort of upping all of the cities. But I don't think that's necessarily the best fix. Basically, if each plane is only carrying 600 people, that means that there's 10 trips worth of problem or imbalance that it has to take for a station to overflow if it's got 6,000. If it's bigger than that, basically it just means that problem's not being addressed and it's just going to get worse. So the question then just becomes, all right, well, what can I do to attempt to correct the mistake, the problem that is going on, and so actually having cities go red at the moment means that I can address lines where there is an actual problem going on. If I was just to upgrade everyone, then I'm going to have cities with 30,000 people in them, and that's when it's going to start screaming that there's a mistake. And if I put the same amount of planes on every line, then it's basically just going to fuel that problem. The idea of what's going to work here is that there's a balance of the amount of passengers versus the amount of planes moving people through the network. That's the idea that I'm sort of working with at the moment. That we're trying to find a balance between how many people are moving through the cities and can we make that happen evenly? Because I don't think that there is definitely a point that you can actually try and hold this in a balance. The more cities that we have, the more places that people are going to be going, less likely that's going to be the case. But we can try and be optimistic. And at least see that all of this is green, right? So I assume that all of South America going. I assume anyone that's sort of red down here is also someone that might need just a little bit of addressing. And you can easily see them and identify what the problems are from just having these small enough to change color when there's an imbalance going on. That one's still not great. Maybe we've got to upgrade that guy one more time. 500. I actually do like the different size planes on the routes too, because I think that gives that sort of flowing across each other where they're not even, but they will sort of go from being right against each other to completely away from each other. I certainly don't mind. Alright, let's get Belarus in here. And that at least is a connection that we've got. We've got 2 capitals talking to each other. We only have 2 cities in Lithuania at the moment. We've got 4 in Estonia and Latvia. Don't know enough about Lithuania to know if it is just a smaller country in general. Or if the population is more situated in those 2 cities than anywhere else. I would have thought that, similar to all of Europe, it's sort of everything's just sort of spaced out around everywhere. It's very livable and fertile, especially if you've got this many cities that far north. Surely this part of the interior of Lithuania is livable. I don't want to wait to see what other... I don't know what the Belarusian cities we get. I just won't connect anything to that yet. I'll optimistically wait out that I'll get something better. Let's just have a look at the world. The thing I do like is you can see a lot of red plains, but not a lot of red cities. It shows that we are sort of doing alright. Los Angeles is still the heavy hitter in this one. And it is that southern route that is Los Angeles. We've got those two planes just sitting right on top of each other. So let's redo that guy. We will set him there. So at least I mean, being on top of each other, potentially they weren't taking as many people as were possibly available. This guy's sitting permanently red. That's just looks to be broken. We might just need to do a restart to get him fixed. Let's just add a few more. Okay, so we're bouncing up, so that's alright. We can get rid of that guy. Didn't wait to read where we got that jet. Alright, so it looks like we've got cities all over Belarus here. I guess we'll make that connection for now. We'll give them a tiny little plane. It's the last last airport on the line, so they can probably survive with that few. So this, for example, this is a 10,000 seat station airport, and it hasn't stopped it from being a problem. It's just sort of means that I only find out that there's a problem going on at a higher rate. Let's see if we can get this guy. So all of his is about traveling this way. So let's give this guy the similar plane. Now those two routes are about the same distance, I would say, so this could possibly mean that they just sit at an even balance. This guy's doing a pretty good job of just sort of cleaning it up. Might just give him a 300-seater. Because you can see that these guys aren't really traveling too much this direction. It's more about getting guys across. I suppose part of that is just because we've suddenly... This is where the roadblock is, and we've suddenly started to clean that up a little bit. So there's more work to push that out this way. Got Columbus with issues too. That's New York City and Mexico are the two big ones, which suggests that that's occurring in two different directions. So I guess both are struggling with the amount of traffic that are coming to them to that point, I guess. But it's a weird balance then, because it means that the more I up either side, the more that both sides are going to have a problem. So that's now the south is the big ones, but then that's the north. So let's give these guys the 500-seater. See how that works as a balance. Seems like they're going to be an issue for a while. And Monterey, Sao Paulo, so that is, I guess, heading south out of Jacksonville. Then a 300-seater. I mean, I did wonder at one point whether it's the major cities that actually get the populations moving? And I guess the answer has to be yes. If you can see that, if I can recognize all of these top cities, then surely that means that the majority of passengers are traveling to major cities. Alright, cool. So we've got a bit more of a bounce around connection series through Belarus here. Depends on where we're going to need to connect into Poland, I guess, whether we want to end up the top, down the bottom. Hopefully we see a full range of things scattering through Poland. So at the moment, I think I'm going to leave... We want to go from Italy into Tunisia and then see how we've got the spread of countries around the top of here. So I think that we want to go down this line here. So Poland, Slovakia, Hungary, Croatia, and everyone west of that will take. And then we'll leave these guys, because possibly we could come up through here, through Turkey and around. Or we might come up just this way through here and then around. So I can make that connection sort of in here, but maybe let's go that. We've got to upgrade all these cities too. So this is the one, did see the suggestion to say, well, why should I say no to that? Because if I say no and that reduces the amount of passengers on my routes, possibly that's going to help me, I'll drag the screen, have my routes get a little bit more under control, because there's going to be less people on the flights. So let's give it a go. Which does mean that while we've got this going on, it should be slowing things down, and we'll have a focus to see if we can get anywhere near on that. So let me just finish off getting these guys right. Let's go look at the world while this week is going on. Alright, Rochester, what's your issue? A little bit small. Where are the people going? London, Boston. So we are this side of the... Where it is? San Jose. It is people heading north. So I think this could be broken again. Well, let's not waste this week. If that is broken, let's not sit on our hands. Let's just load it up and see if we can get it fixed. There we go. Monterey and New York are the top two, so that could be either direction. Let's give them a 300-seater and doubling in size. Increase them. Houston's the one, which I think is this southern route that we've already got the extra plane going on. You can see this is running red coming up. This guy's heading north, so we'll give this guy a 300-seater. This guy's heading to Toronto, which is north as well. So we might just up the size of both the airport and maybe they make this guy a 500-seater. I mean, all these ones that are complaining are the 3,000 population ones, which, like I said, it shouldn't be that shouldn't be the cause. Like, I can't use that as an excuse. There's just obviously an imbalance that's going on with it. Let's give that guy the extra one. On a Vista. Already got 2 planes going on you, but you are only 3,000. I mean, that guy's woeful. It's actually the guys heading in this direction that's the problem. So let's get him a 300-seater, because I don't understand how he's losing this battle. Because all of that is heading Oh wait, is that the losing side in this one? Sorry, that's the losing side. So, get rid of him. Let's give this guy a... Give him a 500-seater. So it actually means that this guy's doing his job. It's just it's struggling at this point. That is completely overloaded though, so again, it's potentially broken on me. We'll see. London, so that's the one heading north. These 300-seater ones is meant to be such a slight adjustment that like I guess we're not going to see it instantly change. I guess that's the idea. That there's no point in hanging around to wait to see if this is actually going to improve the situation here. It's like over time he should slowly win the war on how many passengers are getting stuck there. Bouncing all over the place. Okay, London, Brussels, Atlanta, so that's all heading north. Got that guy already. I don't think this is the one I just came and looked at, so let's just give him that one upgrade. Sioux Falls, Guadalajara, Mandolin, Houston, so that's all heading north. So it is that one. Let's just give them a bonus of a 300-seater and lump that airport. This guy is still our problem, but I mean he's just slowly correcting. Let him go. So that one's heading north. Give him 300-seater. All level 6 planes have been removed from service due to suspected hydraulic faults in the United States of America. They can be replaced by similar ones for 70,000. Level 6 planes. All 6 level planes. I don't know if I actually do want to upgrade them, because I mean the reason that I've got the lower level ones is to create the balance. Okay, now this guy's not going to surprise me that he's an issue. However, the issue is actually heading out of that one. And these ones is where it's going to be good that I can just use lighter sized planes to try and just shift that extra stuff without overloading the longer route. Because that airport's 6,000. I don't know if it's necessarily worth making that smaller. Making that bigger, rather. What has happened here? Okay, that's an interesting little bug we've got. I am scared to save and see what happens this, but I guess we've got to. What am I alright to lose? Let's lose our volatile passenger flow. The interesting thing here too is that no one's got an exclamation mark on them, so they're not saying that they're not attached. They're just not attached. Alright, well luckily the game is buggy enough that it is forcing me to save so frequently that it's not that much of a loss to go back and take over where we were. I guess what we'll do though is we won't worry about just focusing on cities again, because we just did that, even though we have none of that progress. Let's bring in Poland instead. Alright. What do I know about Poland? I know that they absolutely got the brunt of it in at the start of World War II. And I feel like you can get a bit more of a diplomatic understanding of what happened there by watching, I guess, what's currently happening in Ukraine. Like feels like where is the line drawn where you can come in and be an international, like another country and come in and stand in that war? Like, what are the significant problems that you're going to create? And I Oh, we've had a really bad lock up here too. That music cycling? No? Oh man. Oh. Let's try to save load again, because we have just lapsed. You can see all the different things within, like, sort of, oh, why hasn't the US stepped into Ukraine? Why hasn't whoever stepped into the Ukraine? And everyone has their reason of, like, well, if you realize if you do this, then this is going to happen, and this could trigger this and that. And it's at what point is the, I don't know, at what point is what's happening definitive enough that you go, no, this has to be stepped into? I'm not coming at this as a case of saying like someone should or they shouldn't. I definitely am not going to say I have anywhere near of enough of an understanding of what's going on, or where anyone stands and what they're going to do. But I'm just saying that when you see things like that, you can then sort of go like, that is why Poland got decimated, is because if Germany came, and I'm pretty sure Russia came from the other side, if both of them attacked the country at the same time, as another country, what is your, how, like, if there is obviously a lot of red tape that you're getting through to just make that decision of like, all right, you can't, like, hindsight is 2020. You can't decide that, like, how standalone is this thing, or at what point are they going to pull the reins back, or how serious is this? And I think it's an interesting thing to sort of see. I mean, if this is just another example of that, is that one thing in World War II, while on that theme, you do sometimes wonder how could a people get so convinced of something like the German people did, that they could do things like that they could attack Poland and see it as that was something that they should be doing as an entire collective of people. And you can go, all right, well, look at what is potentially happening in America right now. That the things that people can be 100% convinced of that don't necessarily have to be true. That you can now generate your own version of the truth. And I feel like that as well also gives a bigger picture, better understanding of, well, this is how you do it. This is what they would have done in Germany. And well, I mean, even with technology as it is and the internet and the fact that you can potentially just go look things up. I mean, obviously in some countries that's blocked, but similar thing. If in 1940, 1937, whenever it was, you wouldn't have been able to get access to other opinions on things. You would have had what your government was telling you. In saying that, I'm not saying obviously what Germany or anyone did was right. I'm just saying that you can sympathize with the person who didn't know any better. That there is obviously a moral line that you draw with what you're willing to do. But you can even hear Russian soldiers talking about what their understanding of what they were going to do in Ukraine. No wonder you're finding sort of tanks and things just abandoned, because they've actually found out what they're really doing and may not want to be a part of it. Alright, where are the guys headed for this? New York. So they are heading north, which is this way out. So hopefully that little... I think this is one of the ones that I was making changes to before. We got it again. We have all sorts of cities that are losing their connectivity. How widespread is this? Doesn't look like it's too bad at the moment. Just join that guy. And... let's reconnect Peru. This is one funny line. Like, with all of these cities not connected, you can sort of get an idea of a map of what layout I should have here. And it certainly doesn't seem like it should involve a connection that long. But as they go all the way around here and they end up down here, let's sell that route. Where do we need to end up? Here? Okay. What if we isolate out? We come down to here, connect in there, then let these guys run wild too. I'll happily make this connection. It's just going to be a bummer if I finish this to find out that somewhere else in the world has lost all its connections. So let's make that to there. Then what we'll do is we'll sell that. We have this guy swing out. And we sell that. This guy goes... This guy goes up to there. He comes down to there. Down to here. And then that guy goes straight from there to there. And then... want him to connect to him. So the best route from that would be maybe up, down. Across. Alright, so let's now upgrade all these planes, and then once we have upgraded them, let's have a look to see if there's any other series of connections where all the planes are missing. And if there are, let's if there aren't, let's save. Okay, so that's back to that one. Oh, let's fix this round. Plenty of routes to... This is a real revisit to Peru. Actually, I don't even remember what the layout used to look like, but I wonder if it now looks more efficient because it was built with almost all cities without a route, and you can just sort of play a real game of join the dots. Okay, now let's have a quick look around. See if we can see any missing routes, or at least any large sections of missing routes. Looking good. Alright, we are looking good, so let's not mess around with that. We will save that. Alright, how do we get up to this guy? I suppose what we do is get rid of that. And then we just jump straight from Warsaw up. Then down. We don't want to end up in the middle in Lodz, so we will get rid of that. And down. I think the sort of the thing I try and sort of do with something like what I was talking about with Ukraine and Poland and Germany and Russia is that sort of people from anywhere are people, and there are definitely bad people and manipulating people everywhere. But if you can get a large group of people convinced of doing something, there is something that is worth understanding, or like trying to get an understanding of why that can happen and how to sort of avoid it and see the signs of it. And so it's a very sort of, I think, not just an interesting thing to sort of study, but also a fascinating thing an important thing to learn. Just on a similar note to that I had when I was going to be traveling to sort of India and China and Mongolia, one of my friends that I was traveling with, he was definitely a little bit tentative. He wasn't the most confident of traveler. I don't think he'd been anywhere non-English speaking before. And I said, and I do still like this as a sort of an explanation of how to try and travel and how to not feel so overwhelmed at the idea of traveling somewhere. Because I've been places, say for example, I went to Shanghai, and when I think about my memories of Shanghai, I genuinely will almost forget that there was a language barrier on that trip. That so many signs were in English. There were interactions that I had with people that took place in without like having spoken language as a part of it, and it still sort of worked. I'll throw in a quick story from that. So we went to Hangzhou, and when I was starting work, we were working from 9 a.m. in the morning, but the sun was rising because I think China's all on the single time zone. So if you're in the far east, then it means that the sun will come up really early. And so the sun was rising at just before 5 a.m. So what I was doing was getting up. I was leaving my window open so I would get the natural sunrise come into my room, so that at 5:15 my alarm would go off, and I would it would feel like the sun was up. Now, luckily, as well, there's a 2-hour difference between the east coast of Australia and China, so it meant that sort of getting up at 5 was just the equivalent of getting up at 7 in Australia. So as long as I just didn't adjust to the time zone, that was going to be fine as well. So what I was doing is I was finding things in Hangzhou to go and do in the morning, and I found the something of the six. The Pagoda of the Six Seasons, something like that. Its name escapes me at the moment. And I was like, all right, cool. That opens at 6 a.m. So let's see if I can get down there to have a look at it. It might have been 5:30 a.m. It opened. It was super early, whatever it was. And so I went down there, and there was no one at the sort of the ticket booths. It was just completely empty. But then, just off to that, 20 meters away, there was a set of stairs that went up to the pagoda, and there was a lady standing on those stairs waiting to collect tickets. So I sort of walked away from the ticket booth so that I could see her, and I just pointed at the ticket booth and I said, "There's no one there," and sort of put my hands up what do I do? And so she wandered down, she came in, she took my money. She couldn't work out how to operate anything, so what she did is she just hand wrote a note in simplified Chinese and just shooed me up the stairs. So then I went up the stairs, and I looking at my note, and I'm like, well, I hope this allows me to do whatever I'm going up here to do. And I got to security, and I just handed them the note, and they looked at it and they nodded, and they allowed me to go up, and it was gorgeous and incredible. But so when I came home to Australia, one of the guys I work with is from Shanghai. I gave him the note, and I said, "What does this say?" And he said, "Oh, it says full entry all the way to the top." So it meant that I'd paid to, I guess, go all the way to the top of the pagoda. But it basically things like that. But it ultimately didn't matter. So when traveling, or when psyching yourself up for traveling, this is the way that I say it. I look at it. I live in the suburbs of Melbourne City. The city is here. Say if someone said to me, and think of what your equivalent is of the biggest city right nearby, the city that you would visit once every month or few months, right nearby. Imagine that you were told you have to go and stay in that city. You have your wallet, you have your phone, but you just can't go home. You've just got to do something in the city for a week. All right, cool. Well, you know how to get reservations for a hotel. You know how to walk into a hotel and ask to stay there, or just book it online if that's easier. And what are you going to do? You know what things are in your city. I would go see probably maybe the Melbourne Zoo. I'd go to the Melbourne Museum, the art gallery. If the football was on, I could go to a game of that. Plenty of options of what I would do. Or I could also just look up online, like what other things that I haven't thought of could I do. But I can make plans. Say then we change that city. Say it's not a city I'm as common with, but it's still within the country. Say we make that city Perth. It's on the other side of the country. But that doesn't change anything. They still speak the language. I still understand how hotels work. I still have my phone. So let's just find a hotel. Exactly the same thing. And what do I do in Perth? I don't know. Let's look it up. Generally, when I do holidays, it would be that I'd look at Lonely Planet and I'd look at TripAdvisor. Because Lonely Planet gives you the professional suggestion of what things to do. And then TripAdvisor gives you the actual people who have gone and done it and what they think of it. So those combinations. All right, cool. Actually, that genuinely happened. I went to, when I went to Madagascar and flying home, I flew to South Africa and I arrived in Perth before having a connecting flight to Melbourne, but my Perth flight landed at, I want to say 11 a.m. My flight onwards wasn't until 7 p.m. I was going to catch up with a friend. He ended up being sick. So while sitting in Johannesburg airport, I was like, all right, well, I've got 6 hours to kill in Perth. What do I do? And I found Green Museum to go and Maritime, that's a better word. Maritime Museum to go and check out, and that's what I did. But it doesn't matter. Like that's the sort of time you need. You can figure that out. That's not out of your comfort zone. It's just another city. All right, so now let's make that city Paris. So I've now lost the ability to communicate with everyone. They speak a different language to what I do. But guess what? They still have hotels. They still have the internet. They're still on TripAdvisor. It hasn't changed. Everything about I can still make a trip out of just being dumped in Paris and figuring it out. And the same thing counts for Ulaanbaatar, Mongolia. It's still a city. It still has hotels. It still has the internet. And you can then just apply that to anywhere. A city is a city is a city. There's definitely places in the world where it might be more dangerous to go, but if you're just in a country, there's countless countries that I've never been to. But like I can figure out how hotels work. Most places you can book something online. Obviously if you go into the sticks of anywhere, that's going to become a little bit more of a problem and maybe not as easy. But if you're going to a city is a city is a city. People are people everywhere. The human experience should be similar in every place. So in the roundabout way of getting to it, if you can talk people from Russia into attacking Ukraine, or if you can talk people from Germany into attacking Poland, there is something happening there that you need to try and figure out what is this, that it doesn't happen again. So there you go, my combination of it. This is why I'm sort of fascinated in war and the motives behind it, and this is the way that I travel. Hopefully that line of thinking makes sense. Well, I would say that's the end of that one. It doesn't feel like we had too much success in this one because of the sort of the fixing that I suppose we had to do for a little bit on that. The last thing that I will do here is actually just a sweep to make sure that I've still got all my lines, because that is certainly a concern to be losing them. Good to see it was just like at least that load back in and then only having to deal with Peru was worthwhile. In fact, I wonder if that glitch was just Peru based, because the other one wasn't just America, was it? And it wasn't everything in America, I don't think. Anyway, well, without much focus on them, although there was a very long-winded story about what do I know about Poland. There we go, Poland and Belarus joining the party. There's a small plane there. We'll get rid of him. Any questions or comments, feel free to chuck them below. And until next time, catch you later. See ya.